Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Three Vrajgasaj Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Boy Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON DBT Founder Acharya of Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Tiny Thai Gold Pimanandi. All glories to be assembled devotees, all glories to be assembled devotees, all glories to be assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Shah Hai Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tirubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the Supremest Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Sridham Vyasadeva, the authors. Nasta Prayasabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttama Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nisreyasaya Lokasya Dhamyam Swasthayanam Maha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasalam pangom langayate girinna yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatharanam yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatharanam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. We continue from second canto, chapter 5, which is entitled The Cause of All Causes. What number? What number are we? Because sometimes we read more than one, and I think that's what we did. So I think we are at 38. Huh? He's done. Yes, we are actually nearing the end of this chapter. There are 42 verses, and we are at 38. So We will read 38 and 39. Okay. Bhurlokaha kalpitaha padbhyam bhuvarloka asya nabhitaha rida svarloka urasa mahaloko mahatmanaha bhurloka kalpita padbhyam bhuvarlokosya nabhitaha rida svarloka urasa mahaloko mahatmanaha bhurloka kalpita padbhyam bhuvarlokosya nabhitaha rida svarloka urasa mahaloko mahatmanaha bhurloka kalpita padbyam bhuvalokosya nabhitaha rida svaloka urasa mahaloko mahatmanaha bhurloka kalpita padbyam bhuvalokosya nabhitaha rida svaloka urasa mahaloko mahatmanaha bhurloka kalpita padbyam bhuvalokosya nabhitaha rida svaloka urasa mahaloko mahatmanaha
Bhurloka kalpita padya
bhurloka kalpita padbyam
Bhuvalokosya nabhita
bhuvalokosya nabhitaha
Svarloka urasa
rida svaloka urasa
Mahaloko mahatmanaha
mahaloko mahatmanaha bhurloka kalpita padbyam bhuvalokosya nabhitaha hridaya svaloka urasa mahaloko mahatmanaha. Bohu, the lower planetary systems up to the stratum of the earth. Lokaha. Okay, yeah. The planets. Kalpitaha. It is so imagined or said. Padbhyam, out of the legs. Bhuvaha, the upper. Lokaha, the planetary system. Asya, of him, the Lord. Nabhitaha, from the navel, abdomen. Vida, by the heart. Swalokaha, the planetary systems occupied by the demigods. Urasa, by the chest. Mahalokaha, the planetary system occupied by great sages and saints. Maha Atmanaha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sridham Prabhupada Ki. The lower planetary systems up to the limit of the earthly stratum are said to be situated in his legs. The middle planetary systems, beginning from Bhuvarloka, are situated in his navel, and the still higher planetary systems, occupied by the demigods and higher cultured sages and saints, are situated in the chest of the Supreme Lord. Everyone kindly repeat after me. The lower planetary systems, up to the limit of the earthly stratum, are said to be situated in his legs. The middle planetary systems, beginning from Bhuvarloka, are situated in his navel, and the still higher planetary systems, occupied by the demigods and highly cultured saints and highly cultured sages and saints, are situated in the chest of the Supreme Lord. Report. There are 14 spheres of planetary systems within this universe. The lower systems are called Bhurloka. The middle systems are called Bhuvarloka. And the higher planetary systems up to Brahmaloka, the highest planet, the highest planetary system of the universe, are called Svarloka. And all of them are situated on the body of the Lord. In other words, no one within this universe is without a relationship with the Lord. Haribol. Most people don't know that they have a relationship with the Lord. So the whole material universe is very elaborately arranged by by the will of the Lord. Each and every universe is having similar system within every universe. There are many universes. We think we are the only verse. We think we are the only universe. Even Lord Brahma forgets that there are other universes sometimes. And the living entities, once they come in contact with any of these universes, they are constantly traveling, sometimes in the higher planetary systems as demigods or highly elevated sages or saints, or sometimes they go down to the lower planetary systems, mostly in the darker regions. It is said that actually in the higher planetary systems are not so ideal because there's too much opportunity for sense gratification, and one forgets what the real purpose of life is. And in the lower planetary systems, there's too much suffering. Also forget about the actual purpose of life. So of all of the planetary system, of all of the planets within this universe, the middle planetary system, particularly this Earth planet, and particularly this tract of land called Bharatvarsha, where we are sitting now, is the most ideal place because there's a mixture of happiness and distress. Not too much happiness, not too much distress on the material level. It means that one has the best opportunity to cultivate Krishna consciousness and to understand that due to the law of karma, which is, of course, intimately connected with the gunas, the modes of material nature, living entities are constantly going from one planet to another, sometimes going from one universe to another also. And in this way, simply ultimately suffering in the material world. So it means that actually the Vedic, this is very, one devotee was studying the Bhagavatam to find out about things related to cosmology, but his interest was especially in what he terms as Vedic geography. Very interesting, actually, because we hear about so many different different places that are described in the Shastra, and sometimes we think they are out of this planet. But he was telling that the Bhagavatam only gives a little, very small introduction, not so much reference, not so much information about the cosmology or the geography. Geography means just like on this planet Earth, there are continents. We are living, what continent are we living in? Gurukul? What is the name of our continent? We should know where we are. Because when there is Jagya, the Brahmana, the priest, the Purohit, he has to tell everyone where we are. What is the name of our continent? Asia. Yes, correct. We are in Asia. And actually, traditionally, even now, but that was even more so before, the majority of people prefer living in Asia. You know that? Yeah. Because compared to, let's say, to what is the name of my continent? What is my continent? There's only 6. You can't go too wrong. My continent, what is my continent called? It is called, it begins with an A. And it's not Australia. America. Yeah, there are 2 Americas. Just to help to further confuse things. Why 2 Americas? There is North America and there is South, Uttar and Dakshin. Yeah. So actually, before, very less people lived in America because it is, according to Shastra, one should not live in a place where there are no mango trees. That's why we have a mango orchard. One should not live in a place where the papaya trees are not growing, where mango trees are not growing. Yeah, that means nobody should live in America. Some portion in America, like California, South California, or Florida, in the southern part, You can grow bananas, you can grow what we call like tropical fruit. But actually, according to Shastra, one should not live in places where one has to struggle all the time just to survive, you know, just to keep the cold away, because it is cold for, it's cold actually all the time. But it is so cold that the trees, they lose all of their leaves in the autumn, and everyone thinks it's very beautiful. Of course, it's very colorful, but so the ideal place, both materially and spiritually, to live is actually here in Asia. And that's why, since time immemorial, people from who happen to be born in other countries, they hear about, oh, there's one place, there's one land, you know, where um, especially they are practicing spiritual life. So Asian countries are especially ideal for practicing spiritual life, and that is also mentioned in the Shastra, how India, Bharatvarsha, is glorified as, just like in India, so many holy places. We just went to Ahobilam. One can spend a whole life from childhood practically till the end of old age and still not visit all the holy places of India. Not be able, not, one will not be able to swim in all the holy rivers. And traditionally, some people, they would do that. They would, once they come to know about this very special place where they are living, then they will simply, by walking also, they will be going from one place to another. And the Lord especially incarnates in Bharatvarsha. I have not heard of many incarnations in Canada. Maybe, I don't know. But why would the Lord incarnate in, in a place where nothing grows, for 6 months of the year? So, so this is described how the different planets are situated, and living entities, due to not having proper understanding, proper knowledge, they are wandering from one planet to another. As Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuvana Loka, from the highest planet, which is Brahmaloka in the material world, to the lowest planet, all what is the same thing that we find everywhere? What is the same? Let's say, symptom, whether we go to the higher planet or to the lower planet? All places are places of misery, because in the material world, Hare Krishna, all places, one experiences janmam ritu daravyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease. Hare Krishna. So we will read our second verse, which is text 39. You can follow. Grivayam janalokosya tapalokastanadvayat muradhabhi satyalokastu brahmaloka sanatanaha. Translation: from the forefront of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord are situated the planetary systems of Janaloka and Tapaloka, whereas Satyaloka, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal. So all of these planets that are described so far within the material world, they are temporary, whereas the spiritual planets in the spiritual world, they are eternal. So purport. Many times in these pages, we have discussed the spiritual planets situated beyond the material sky. And the description is corroborated in this verse. The word Sanatana is significant. The very idea of eternity is expressed in the Bhagavad Gita 8:20, where it is said that beyond the material creation is the spiritual sky, where everything is eternal. Sometimes Satyaloka, the planet in which Brahma resides, is also called Brahmaloka. But the Brahmaloka mentioned here is not the same as the Satyaloka planetary system. This Brahmaloka is eternal, whereas the Satyaloka planetary system is not eternal. And to distinguish between the two, the adjective Sanatana has been used in this case. So listen carefully here, because normally Brahmaloka means Brahma's abode, and Brahma is a jiva in the material world, and Brahmaloka is in the material world. Here we are hearing something different. Unless we listen attentively, we will be confused. So this Brahmaloka being referred to here is eternal, whereas the Satyaloka planetary system is not eternal. And to distinguish between the two, the adjective Sanatana has been used in this case. So whenever there is something that appears not clear, and there are many such things in the Bhagavatam and other Shastra, then we have to take guidance from the acharyas, isn't it? Our Vaishnava acharyas who have made commentary on especially the Bhagavatam, they give more light so that we can understand. So this is what is happening here also. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, this Brahmaloka is a loka or abode of Brahman, or the Supreme Lord. In the spiritual sky, all the planets are as good as the Lord himself. The Lord is all spirit, and his name, fame, glory, times, etc., are all non-different from him because he is absolute. As such, the planets in the kingdom of God are also non-different from him. In those planets, there is no difference between the body and the soul, nor is there any influence of time as we experience it in the material world. And in addition to there being no influence of time, the planets in Brahmaloka, due to being spiritual, are never annihilated. Yeah. So there's a spiritual Brahmaloka and there's a material Brahmaloka. We should know where we want to go. Which Brahmaloka? All variegatedness in the spiritual planets is also one with the Lord, and therefore the Vedic aphorism, ekam ivad vitiyam, is fully realized in that Sanatana atmosphere of spiritual variegatedness. This material world is only a shadow phantasmagoria of the spiritual kingdom of the Lord. And because it is a shadow, it is never eternal. The variegatedness in the material world of duality, why the material world is called a world of duality? What does duality mean to begin with? Duality means, what is the word in Sanskrit for duality?
Dvandva.
Huh?
Dvandva.
Dvandva. Duality. So what is one meaning? Actually, yeah, what is one meaning? Important, very important meaning of duality that Prabhupada is referring to here. Material world is a place of duality because in the material world there is matter and spirit. Two different, right? There is happiness and distress, good and bad, matter and spirit. So, the Prabhupada is telling here, because it is a shadow, it is never eternal, the variegatedness of the material world of duality, spirit and matter, cannot be compared to that of the spiritual world because of a poor fund of knowledge. Less intelligent persons sometimes mistake the conditions of the shadow world to be equivalent to those of the spiritual world. And thus they mistake the Lord and his pastimes in the material world to be one with the conditioned souls and their activities. When Krishna descends in the material world, as it is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, avajananti mammudha manushim tanumasritam. Ordinary people, they think that I assume a material body because Krishna is very human-like. He looks like a human being, like all of us. But he actually is, even though in this human form like, he is fully, completely spiritual, transcendental. Actually, it is mentioned in the Bible, for those who might have read the Bible, that man is made at the image of God, isn't it? Not the other way around. Man is made, that means that the form that we have as human beings, that original, pure, transcendental form is Krishna. Yeah. So just to continue here. The Lord condemns, such less intelligent persons in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is quoting that same verse. 9:11. Avajananti mammudha manusham tanumasritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheswaram. Yes. Whenever the Lord incarnates, he does so in his full internal potency, Atmamaya. And less intelligent persons mistake him to be one of the material creations. Srila Sridhar Swami, therefore, okay, so he's referring to Srila Jiva Goswami and also Sridhar Swami, rightly commenting on this verse, says that the Brahmaloka mentioned here is Vaikuntha. So there's a Brahmaloka in the material world and there's Brahmaloka in Vaikuntha. We should learn the difference between both. So according to Srila Sridhar Swami, this Brahmaloka mentioned here is Vaikuntha, the kingdom of God, which is Sanatana, or eternal, and is therefore not exactly like the material creation described above. The Virat, universal form of the Lord, is an imagination for the material world. It has nothing to do with the spiritual world or the kingdom of God. So this material world, as we are reading here, is made up of these 14 planetary systems, and it is very it is attracting the attention of all conditioned souls. But here we come to know in this verse and purport that there is another world. This is unknown actually to most people who are simply covered by material thoughts or material ideas. There is this material world, as mentioned here, is but a shadow or a reflection. Just like if we go beside a lake, we'll see the shadow of the tree reflected in the water. And that tree looks exactly like the tree on the bank of that lake, but it is a reflection. So this material world and all the activities in the material world, all of the, especially, this is by very very interesting topic, which is a major topic in our Vaishnava Sampradaya. All of the different relationships that we experience in the material world between two friends, or between parents and children, or between husband and wife, these are also reflections of the original pure transcendental relationships which exist actually in the spiritual world. And we all experience how here in the material world these different relationships, actually everyone is seeking, looking for relationship. Everyone is looking for a friend, isn't it? Sometimes people, they commit suicide if they don't have any friends. Yeah, people will leave a note that I'm leaving, I don't have any friends. Nobody likes me. We, by nature, we need friendship. We cannot live. Even animals, they are they have this natural tendency. It is a need, natural need, because friendship. What is the essence of friendship? What is at the basis of friendship? The essence of friendship is love, isn't it? So everyone needs love. It is scientifically established. For example, people who are what is called anath. What is anath? Orphan. Now more and more people are, we find more and more orphans in the material world, especially in America. So it is statistically established that if one doesn't have the motherly care and affection that one needs as a young child, then one will develop what is called psychological disorders. One will be emotionally disturbed, and one will not be able to function properly in society. One will not be happy. By nature, we all want to be happy, but because we are not having proper knowledge and understanding. We are seeking so-called happiness in the wrong way through material activities or through what we call material relationships. So that is why, as devotees, when we cultivate this knowledge, when we are fortunate to come in contact with this knowledge, when people get married, people means when devotees get married, the relationship between two devotees, two persons who are devotees, and the relationship between two people who are not devotees is different, because the goal is different. So, in this way, Bhagavatam is introducing us to the higher realm. Higher realm means just to know that we are not this body, but spirit soul. Just to know that this material world is not all in all, but that there's a whole other different kind of world where there is no headache and no toothache and no stomachache and no old age. One remains eternally youthful. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantadupam adyam purana purusham navayovanam cha. Navayovanam. Krishna is Navayovanam. Eternally youthful. So we are not meant to grow old. That's why nobody likes to grow old. We're not meant to die. That's why no one likes to die also. But one who cultivates this knowledge knows that actually, even though this body is growing old, I'm not old because I'm not this body. I'm the spirit soul, isn't it? So this is why we have Bhagavatam class, so that we can get, with the help of our Vaishnavacharyas, more understanding about what is life, and more understanding about this material world in which we are living. We should know it is not our real place. It is definitely not our eternal place, because it's very interesting. You will gradually learn this as you grow older, because as we grow older, more and more people around us, either family members or friends or relatives, whatever, they die, isn't it? When we are young, we don't think about this so much, but this is part of nature's arrangement. Old age is there to force people to be more thoughtful, because we have to be more cautious about what we eat, for example. A young person can digest practically anything, not anything, but can digest more easily than someone who is like an old man. So therefore, this just like this particular verse, if we don't take help from personalities like Srila Jiva Goswami or Sridhar Swami, they are like very highly elevated personalities who have studied the subject matter presented in the Vedic literatures very thoroughly, and they are very advanced. So they see things, they understand things more easily, more clearly than we can, and therefore that's why in the Shastra it is mentioned. One of the prayers composed by Lord Brahma, that Vedeshu Dolabam Adolabam Atma Bhakta. Vedeshu Dolabam, the Vedic knowledge, even Srimad Bhagavatam, which is part of Vedic knowledge, not so easily can be understood. It can best be understood by those who are devotees, because they know that in some instances we need to take the guidance and the assistance from those who are more advanced and more self-realized. So we'll just read this verse again, and if there's any comment or question, yes. Translation to 39. From the forefront of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord are situated the planetary systems, the name Janaloka and Tapaloka, whereas Satyaloka, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal. So this is the description of all the different planets, from the lower planets to the higher planetary systems, ending with sometimes, as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, sometimes we refer or equate Satyaloka to Brahmaloka. And here at the end of the text, it mentions that in addition or above all of this, there are planetary systems. Spiritual planets, spiritual planets, and the special, unique feature of those spiritual planets is that they are eternal. And our objective and goal is to return to those eternal spiritual planets. Once we go back to the spiritual planets, we don't have to return to the material world, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. So, any comments or questions? You have a few questions, and not only one, you have a few questions. Yes?
My first question is,
In the
text that we discussed today,
okay.
It is mentioned that from the navel of the Lord, or at the navel of the Lord, the middle planetary systems are created around
Situated.
Uh,
The Lord has a big navel.
Yes. Does this mean that the sun, moon, and few stars that we could see from here, like all of them are in the living planetary system? If not, what are the planets?
You want a list of all the planets in the middle planetary system? Well, I mean, from the Earth we can see the sun, but the sun is very far away. What is it, 92 million miles away, something? So, different just like the moon planet, all of the main planets, Jupiter, Mars, they are all situated at different distances from the Earth. Whether they are all within the navel of the universal form of the Lord, I've not studied that. Actually, I cannot say exactly. I think it depends on how far away they are from our planet. One would have to. This is a question, especially meant for those who go more deeply in the subject matter of the cosmology. So, whether anyone has read where the sun is situated in the middle portion, or I'm not sure. Actually, I've not read that.
Is there any specific information where do the upper planetary systems get light from? The light.
Where do they get light? Some portion of the universe actually doesn't get light.
The lower
Huh?
Upper planetary system.
Yes. See, these are technical questions, which unless one studies the subject matter, which I have not done, so they have in like the Svarga Loka or the heavenly planets, they have um, different arrangement than we have here, and but I remember reading in the Bhagavatam that there's a very large portion in the universe where the sun does not um throw its light, and so that area is like dark. Uh, but uh, most of the planets in the at least in the middle portion of the planetary systems get their light from the sun, and the lower planetary systems it is described as being dark. It is a darker aspect or side, um, and about the upper planetary systems, I'm not sure how far the sun throws its rays, but there's a limit to that. Yeah. Your third one.
That was the previous one was the follow-up question. Yeah. As you mentioned, we have various relationships here in the material world. Um, these relationships or this material world itself then makes or a shadow spiritual world.
Yes.
On this, my question is, do we have this husband, like son, the parents and children relation in the time apart from the like, the parents of the
Whether these relationships exist in the spiritual world.
yes.
Yes, these relationships also exist in the spiritual world. But everyone is for, just like in Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, uh, they are parents of Krishna. There are other parents who have uh, cowherd boys as their children. Uh, so whatever relationships that we find in the material world exist uh, in their pure form in the spiritual world. It'll become more clear once you go there. Because in the spiritual world, you see, in the spiritual world, we hear how the living entities in the spiritual world, they are fully liberated, and they serve the Lord in different ways. Just like one can serve the Lord as water or as grass, isn't it? The grass in the spiritual world is conscious. Everything in the spiritual world, rocks, you know, uh, are conscious, and the living entity actually has a choice to sometimes serve in this way or to serve in that way. Just like we may take up different kinds of service. Of course, we are limited here in the material world. We are stuck with the body that we have. uh, but in the spiritual world, it's different. The living entity, according to his uh, uh, according to his desire, can serve the Lord in different ways, can change can change the form in which he serves the Lord. Although it is described that the living entity has a particular main, we could say, relationship with the Lord, and generally serves in a particular, what we call rasa, or relationship, but that is interchangeable also. Not so easy for us to understand because we are living in the material world and we're very conditioned in our way of seeing, in our way of understanding things. So these descriptions are given in the Shastra, how different living entities will serve the Lord in different ways in the spiritual world, and what we call inanimate, like the land, the soil, in the spiritual world, all of that is animate, is conscious. Yeah, that's why spiritual world is called the land of Chintamani, Chintamani Dham. Anything else? Yes.
This question, I want to add some relationships were given by Lord. Why he has given these relationships?
Relationship have been given by the Lord Himself. Why He has given this relationship? The relationships are based on, relationship means exchange between two, isn't it? You cannot have relationship unless you have two persons. So because by nature Krishna is the essence of Krishna actually is we call prema, or love. So he has this love for which he experiences great joy and happiness. So he creates the living entities to share this love, to just like somebody who is very rich, he will, if he's not a miser, he will distribute his wealth. He will make people happy in this way. So Krishna has something that is, of course, totally spiritual, and Krishna by nature is described as Anandamay. He is fully satisfied, fully happy, and he is the source of all happiness. So living entity is being created by him, has that same nature or tendency. The problem is that when we do not properly utilize that when we don't decide properly, when we misuse our minute independence, then we break or become disconnected with that relationship with Krishna. But we all can understand how in the material world everyone is trying to establish some relationship, isn't it, with someone, because by nature everyone wants to be happy. So Krishna, by definition, is that personality who is constantly experiencing transcendental happiness through relationships. We see that especially in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is that place where the Lord displays all varieties of relationships. Of all of the pastimes of Krishna, of all of the incarnations of the Lord, that this, we can say, that is the original form of the Lord. That is why the devotees are especially attracted to the pastimes of Vrindavan, because Krishna exhibits all of these different relationships. So devotees are attracted, and in this way they become inspired, and this helps the devotees to actually revive their original spiritual transcendental relationship. Yeah. Is that? You don't want relationship with Krishna?
By developing these relationships with others, like husband and wife, uh, between parents and children, sometimes we get some problems with each other, with each other understandings.
Yes. In the material world, because those relationships between, let's say, two friends or husband and wife, because those relationships are not fully on the transcendental platform, therefore uh, there are problems, there are frictions. That is why I was mentioning a little while ago how the relationship between husband and wife for someone who's a devotee compared to the relationship between husband and wife of non-devotees is different. And of course, as devotees, uh, until one reaches the fully, completely perfected stage, then that tendency will be there. There will be a misunderstanding. There will be quarrel. There are different types of problems. Maybe there even amongst devotees, because one is still not fully uh, purified in consciousness. Those who are purified in consciousness, they will always remain fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. They will always remain fixed in their service, and they will not. One who is fully self-realized no longer becomes perplexed or confused, isn't it? So it is quite natural that even amongst, let's say, some of our own devotees, until one reaches that very elevated, purified stage, there will be differences. Uh, there will be different types of problems that will be there. So the idea is that the more we endeavor to purify our consciousness, because as devotees, husband and wife, for example, they're meant to together help one another advance in spiritual life by focusing on serving Krishna. That's why Prabhupada and our acharyas explain that, especially for householders, doing deity worship is very important, isn't it? So, in one's family, when the Lord is worshipped at home, then we develop this understanding. We develop the consciousness that actually the Lord is the proprietor of this house. I may be paying the rent, but Krishna is allowing me to earn money to pay the rent. Whatever I may be doing, it is by the Lord's mercy. My very being, my very existence, it is all depending on ultimately on Krishna, isn't it? So one develops this understanding that as husband and wife, we are simply the servants of Krishna, and it is ultimately, as explained in the Shastra, everything belongs to the Lord. We also, as eternal parts and parcel, we are the eternal servants of the Lord. So the more we cultivate this understanding, then generally in the material world, husband and wife, they're focused on one another. But in Krishna consciousness, husband and wife are focused on Krishna. That's the difference. When one is focused on one another, and generally for personal interest, then there will be competition, there will be different kinds of problems. When one husband and wife are focused on Krishna, then there will be less of these differences because one has the same goal, same objective, isn't it? So that requires that both individuals, both the husband and wife, and then children, when children come, just like I remember visiting one Indian family, for example, that was in Toronto. They were very ideal because all of the members of the family, all of the children, they had beautiful deities, actually, of Radha Krishna. You know, in some Indian homes, they're very elaborate. It's practically higher standard than some of our temples. And you know, they work together. They work together means they serve together, because the parents are very Krishna conscious. Naturally, the children, they also are brought up in that kind of mood or atmosphere. And it's very nice because all of them, it's like there's so many things. When you have deities, when you have an altar, somebody has to get flowers, somebody has to make a garland, somebody has to cook, somebody has to dress, so many things, isn't it? So when we are engaged in this way, in a practical way, then when that focus remains on serving Krishna, then we have less of these different, you know, problems that are generally found in in the lives of people who are not cultivating Krishna consciousness, isn't it? Okay, I think we need to close here. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Sridham Prabhupada